Okay, here is an example of how to use the simplex method to solve a standard maximization linear programming problem. And so our goal here is to maximize f equals x plus 2y, subject to the constraints 2x plus 6y is less than or equal to 54, x plus y is less than or equal to 49, and along with the standard constraints, y is greater than or equal to 0, and x is greater than or equal to 0. All right, so we're going to start by introducing two slack variables. We'll introduce S1 and S2, and they also have the requirement that they have to be greater than or equal to 0. And they will convert our inequalities to equalities. So we're going to have a 2x plus 6y plus S1 is less than or equal to 54, and 7x plus y plus S2 is less than or equal to 49. And the other thing we're going to have to do is transform our objective equation. We want all the variables on the same side of the equation. So I'm going to subtract an x and subtract a 2y from both sides of that equation. And so I'll have minus x minus 2y plus f equals 0. Okay, and then we're going to convert that into our simplex table. It would be 2. We're going to have a column for x, a column for y, a column for S1, a column for S2, and a column for f. And we just read off our coefficients here that go into the table. So 2, 6, S1 has a coefficient of 1. The coefficient of S2 is 0. F is 0, and that equals 54. So our augmented matrix would look like that. And I also just realized that I wrote less than or equal to up here when these two should be equals to. That's why we're introducing the slack variable to make those as equal to instead of inequalities, turn them into actual equations. And then the second equation is 7x plus 1y plus 0s1 plus 1s2 plus 0f equals 49. And then our objective equation goes across the bottom row. 1 minus 2, 0s1, 0s2, 1 for f, and an initial starting value of 0 there. Okay, so we've got it into the table. Now it's time to actually do the simplex method. We start by identifying the pivot column, and the pivot column is going to be the one with the smallest number in the bottom row, the largest negative, largest in absolute value. Negative is the one we're looking through. -2 there is the value with the largest negative value in absolute value. And it's also technically the smallest number. And then I want to decide which column or which row to look at. And I'm going to do that by taking 54, the n number over here, and dividing it by the 6, the value here in my column. And then I also want to take 49 divided by 1 is 49. 54 divided by 6 is 9. And I'm going to choose the smaller of those two numbers, the smallest positive, smallest non-negative number there that I want to choose there. So that would be the 9. And so my pivot would be the 6 here. So I want to turn the 6 into a 1, and then I want to make everything else in that column zeros. And so I'm going to use row operations to do that. I am going to kind of erase my little calculations over here because I don't need those anymore. They were just to kind of get me started. And get back to my pen here. All right, so let's take row 1 and multiply it by 1/6. And so I'll have 1/3, 1/6, oops, no, sorry, 1. 1/6, 0, 0, 9. And the second row I'm going to leave the same for now. 0, 1, 0, 49, and then minus 1, minus 2, 0, 0, 1, 0. All right, so 1 here is still my pivot. I want to make zeros underneath it, so let's do the row operation. Negative 1 times row 1 plus row 2, put it into row 2 spot. I do want to use that pivot row in my operations, so I want to do row 1 in both of these calculations. And I'm also going to do 2 times row 1 plus row 3 and put it into row 3 spot. So the top row will stay the same. And if I do negative 1 times row 1 plus row 2, I'm going to have negative 1/3 plus 7. 7 is the same as 21 over 3. So negative 1/3 plus 21/3 gives us 20 over 3. Negative 1 times 1 plus the 1 gives us 0. I'm going to have negative 1 times 1/6 plus 0 is negative 1/6. Negative 1 times the 0 plus the 1 stays 1. Negative 1 times 0 plus 0 stays 0. Negative 1 times 9 is a negative 9. Plus 49 makes 40. All right. And then I want to do 2 times row 1 plus row 3. So 2 times row 1, 2 times 1/3 would be 2/3. 2/3 plus the negative 1/3 would leave us with negative 1/3 there. 2 plus a negative 2 would be 0. 2/6 is 1/3. 1/3 plus 0 is 1/3. 2 times 0 plus 0 stays 0. 2 times 0 plus 1 stays 1. And 2 times 9 equals 18. 18 plus 0 is 18. And so I am not done yet because I still have a negative here in the bottom row. I have to do another pivot. All right, and so my pivot row, the only negative is that first column. I want to take 9 and divide it by 1/3. 9 divided by 1/3 is 27. And then 20 divided by 20/3 divided by 1/3 is 20 times, or 20/3 times 3 over 1. The 3's cancel off, gives me 20. And so my pivot column, again, would be the second one. So it's this 20/3 here would be my pivot that I'm looking at. All right, so let's turn that 20/3 into a 1. Let's multiply this row times 3 over 20. So we're going to take 3 over 20 and multiply it through row 2. All right, let's get a little more space here. So I'm going to leave the top row the same for now. 1/3, 1, 1/6, 0, 0, 9. 3/20 times 20/3 would be 1. 3/20 times 0 is 0. 3/20 times 1/6, negative 1/6, will be negative, let's see, I can cancel the 3 out of there, so negative 1/40. And then 3/20 times 1 is 3/20. 3/20 times 0 is 0. 3/20 times 6, or 3/20 times 40, the 20 and the 40 will reduce down to just a 2, and so I'll have 2 times 3, I'll get 6 there for the total. All right, negative 1/3, 0, 1/3, 0, 1, 18. Bottom row stays the same. So now I have to use this pivot to create zeros above and below that. So let's take minus 1/3 times row 2, add it to row 1, and put it into row 1 spot. Okay, you have to use your pivot to create the zeros. Very important there. There is a way to get a 0 with the 1/3 and the negative 1/3, adding them together, but I have to use row 2 in this in order to get the zeros there. And then I'm also going to do positive 1/3 times row 2 plus row 3 and put it into row 3 spot. All right, so the middle row here should stay the same. Let's do the top row first. Negative 1/3 times 1 plus 1/3 gives me 0. Negative 1/3 times 0 is 0. 0 plus 1 is 1. Negative 1/3 times 1/40 would be positive 1 over 120, and then I need to add 1/6 to that. I need to get a common denominator. I can multiply all of those by 20. It gives me 20, 1 over 120, and that should reduce down to, I can divide them both by 3 7/40. So this would be a 7 over 40 in here. And then negative 1/3 times 3 over 20 is a negative 1 over 20. Negative 1/3 times 0 plus 0 is 0. 1/3 of 6 would be 2, negative 2. And when I add it to the 9, I get 7. And let's see, that's that for that row. So then I need to do 1/3 of row 2 plus row 3. So 1/3 of 1 is a third, plus negative 1/3 gives me 0. 1/3 times 0 plus 0 stays 0. 1/3 of negative 40 would be negative 1 over 120, and I need to add that to 1/3. I want to multiply this by 1/3 and add to 1/3. And so that would give me, let's see, need a common denominator. 3 times 40 gives me 120. So negative 1 over 120 plus 40 over 120 gives us 39 over 120 in there. Okay. And then negative 1/3 times 3 over 20 would be 1/20, plus 0 is going to be 1/20. 1/3 times 0 is 0. 0 plus 1 gives us 1. And 1/3 of 6 is 2. 2 plus 18 gives us 20. So now I am at the ideal solution. My bottom row is all positive, so I know we're at that ideal solution. And my columns again were X, Y, S1, S2, and F. And so we're going to get from the first column, X is equal to 6. The 1 here lines up with the 6. So X is equal to 6. Y equals 7, because the 1 lines up with the 7. S1 and S2, I'm going to set equal to 0 because those columns are all messy. They're all full of, ugly numbers there. So I'm going to call them 0. And then finally, the F corresponds to the 20. So F equals 20 as our solution there. All right. So it doesn't take too long to get through these. This one was pretty messy with all the fractions in there. But the same sort of process should work through to get us our answer. All right.